Well, hello there. Welcome back to another episode of More Perfect Marketing. It's David Baer here, and I'm curious, what does paddleboarding, photography, and search engine optimization have to do with one another? Well, the answer lies in today's guest, Danny Braught, who is joining us from the greater Dallas-Fort Worth area. I'm not cool enough and I'm not local to be able to call it DFW, but that's DFW for everybody who lives down there. Has a background in both running paddleboard shops, which I'm really curious about, being a photographer. I didn't mention publishing a magazine, and now is the owner of a marketing firm that specializes in, among other things, search engine optimization. I'm going to chat with him today about all of that. Danny, welcome.
Thank you. Looking forward to being on here with you.
Indeed. So, okay, I want to just get a sense of how you moved from some of the things that you had done before into where you are now. And perhaps you can help connect some of the dots, because some of it seems quite logical, some of it doesn't. So why don't we get to know you in the next minute or three?
Sounds good.
So tell me about how you moved from owning and operating your own businesses into the publishing world, and then ultimately became a marketing agency owner.
So back in 2010, I was what was called the King of Wake, which was a big national wakeboard competition for who is the top wakeboarder in the nation. It was put on actually by a magazine, by Bonnier Corporation, but under the name King of Wake, and then they always had a boat that was the main sponsor of it. And so I met a couple of brothers there, and this was the first venture into business that I had, was actually boat fenders. And so we were selling boat fenders that look like skulls, because most boat fenders that hang off the side of your boat, they look like tampons, versus what we were making were skulls. And then we had other plans in the future to do fish and chili peppers and all sorts of different cool looking things to go on the side of your boat that were also more functional the way that we were building them, to protect your boat from the dock or from other boats that you're tying up with. And that business went kind of south when the two brothers that I'd partnered with had some substance abuse issues. And so I ended up getting out of the company due to that and moved on. But at a boat show, I'd actually met a guy who just started a paddleboard shop. Paddleboarding was not big. Nobody knew who it was. Nobody knew what it was at that point in time. It was, everybody knew about kayaking, but they had no clue what paddleboarding was. And so I'd sold him some of the fenders for the wake surf side of the paddleboard shop. And so he had 12 paddleboards when I started working with him. And so I got into that and I opened a new location for it, which was at the largest inland marina here in Texas, which is on Lake Louisville. It's called Safe Harbor Pier 121 now. And so we had an actual floating shop that looks like a gas dock that you'd go onto at a marina, because it was an old gas dock that we turned into a full place that had a club membership room. It had a retail location in the front, my office in the back, and people could pull their boats up to it, paddleboards up to it, all sorts of stuff. So I started working on that business in 2012. And between 2012 to 2017, when I got out of there, we had 2 locations when I first started, and about 20 paddleboards between the 2 of them. When I left in 2017, we had over 125 paddleboards, 65 kayaks, 30 plus bikes, and 2 wake surf boats. And the way that we did that was I changed it up because I didn't like the roller coaster of revenue, because it's a very summertime sport, and being on the water during the summer. And so I started thinking about it, and I wanted to go to a gym membership. So if we could sign on all these different members that pay us a monthly price, they get unlimited access year round. They never have to worry about storing the 12-foot paddleboard or the 16-foot kayak or a bike in their apartment or in their house, or a lady who's trying to get a kayak down off the top of her boat or off the top of her car, and then it falls over, hits somebody else's car, dents her car, or whatever. So I wanted to create a service where you come out to the lake, and then you're able to get a paddleboard, a kayak, a bicycle to ride on the trails around there, or take wake surf lessons with us on a boat that cost $100,000.
So
And
when you said to sort of create a gym membership, and I'm assuming you're talking about like the model. So you were
yep,
moving from like paying for rental or for purchase of the equipment to a subscription where people could access it on call.
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, so they could come out anytime that they wanted to, any time of the year. If they're a member, they have a code to get it. If it's during the summer, we also had staff that would take the paddleboard or kayak down from the shop onto the water for them, so they didn't have to carry the heavy board or kayak or whatever it might be. And so we went into that model. When I left, we had, I think, over 150 members that were on there paying us monthly year round. So now it was a business that was more sustainable and made revenue during the winter as well. And during those times, it was called the DFW Surf Club. And during those winter months as well, when not as many people are out kayaking, we would do an event each month where their membership money would go towards us going and doing what's called a flow rider inside the mall, where you're surfing on top of water, but it's inside of a mall. And we would pay for everybody and have drinks and hors d'oeuvres and stuff like that for people. Or we would go to Top Golf or something like that as a club. And so it was something that built a community as well. We have a closed Facebook group. I don't even know how many people are in there now, but you had to be a member to be part of the group, where they all talk about meeting up and going on different trips. And they went from here to Costa Rica to all over Texas, going snowboarding together, and it built really this big community.
But by the way, I just want to jump in here because I'm fascinated with the story. But for our folks who are listening, right, that is an amazingly smart retention ploy, right? To
Yeah.
have a community, right, a physical in-person community, a Facebook community, and then have events around that community to create that additional connection. So, kudos to you for that.
Thanks. Yeah, it was my partner and I putting it all together and really coming up with how could we make this a sustainable business that wasn't just seasonal. And so during that time as well, he had been asked to be the editor of a magazine. It was called Borders Magazine. I'm pretty sure the website's still up, bordersmag.com. We haven't done anything with it in a while. But as you can see behind me, here's some of the magazines that are over here on the wall of the print magazines that we put out. So he was asked to be the editor of this magazine, but at the time it was only digital. There was no print, anything like that. They asked me to come on as a sales guy. So it worked out perfectly with what we were doing, because Borders Magazine was about all inland surf sports, which would be paddleboarding, it would be flow riders, it would be the new surf parks that are showing up across the US. It would be wake surfing as well behind boats. And so I started selling those services as well. Well, it just so happened that those are the same exact things I did with DFW Surf. So we would go to the same people that were already our suppliers for our paddleboards, and we would talk to them about advertising in our magazine, and we'll buy even more of your product. So essentially, we're just changing money back and forth. Or going to the boat companies and, hey, your boat could be the sponsor of our wake surf school, so that more people see your brand as well. And so it was very synergistic between the two companies. So we had that. We printed our first one, I want to say in 2013. We printed until the end of 2016. And that was when our last print edition went out. It was quarterly print nationwide. And so they were very synergistic between the two. And so I traveled around. I actually became a photographer by accident. It was really that I couldn't afford to pay to send photographers to all these different things. I needed to go to as a sales guy as well. So right before I was leaving to go to what's called Surf Expo, it's one of the biggest things for all surf industry and smaller boutique shops that you see like on the coast. They also buy all their little trinkets and everything there too. So I bought a camera before I was going to head there and just figured out how to use it. First on auto, and then I had friends that are professional, awesome photographers. They were like, put it on manual. Here's what you need to do. Here's the things that you need to know. Here's how you frame up a subject, all of this different stuff. And so then I started taking photos, and actually this one right here, this cover shot is a photo that I actually shot myself. And so I just kind of got into that. And then that's kind of how it transitioned over into the agency. So the agency actually began as Local Media House, and we were a media production agency. And so for some of the boat companies and other people, they started to ask us to do stuff that was outside the scope of what the magazine actually did. And so we were shooting all for a couple different boat companies. We were shooting all of their model year. So all of their new videos that they release of their new boats that are coming out. And that's how Local Media House was born. And so we would do video captures. We did that for 8 years for them with the same client. They actually just dropped off a couple of years ago, and they brought everything in-house. as well as we still work with the second client, which was a resort that we were shooting at. We started working with them for photography, but then we ended up doing their website, their SEO. We still do their website, their paid ads, their email marketing. We still do all of that for them today, and it was technically our second client of the agency when we first started.
So okay, that is a ton there, and I know that I want to, no pun intended, dive into what you're doing with the agency and understand a little bit about how you've now transitioned to a very different area. But as I was going through the agency site, I came across a free ebook that you give away. And I think that's still the connection of all the places on the website that I saw. Okay, well, here's still a little bit of Danny's past, and that's the How to Make Waves ebook. Do you want to talk a little bit about what's in that and what you're trying to teach and engage local businesses around in that ebook?
So in the ebook, it's 95 different ways for you to create local leads. Some of them are talk about paid ads, but a lot of them are just different things that you can do to get out of the community, to get your name known, different guerrilla tactics, different tactics of online tactics, and different things that you can do that a lot of people just never think of. When I talk with people and I'll sit down with them for 20 minutes and they're like, yeah, I'm just not sure how to do this. And then I just start spitting off. They're like, I got so much value out of that. So I sat down with our content team and just started going through all of these different things that you could do as a local business to get your business up and running and getting more leads coming in. And then we created an ebook out of that that is a lead gen tool on our website.
I reference the name Make Waves, obviously, because it talks about your past there, but in just the couple of minutes that you've shared your story, it's very clear that as a business owner yourself, you've been exceptionally resourceful and creative, and to be able to then, share that experience and that knowledge, even if it's outside of the, scope of services that you provide. Again, another important tip for listeners to demonstrate the generosity of knowledge is a great way to start a relationship. And so, again, I think it's a great thing for folks to be able to model the example that you have here.
That's one thing that I like. Even some of my best friends are like, one of the things that I've learned from you is you always add value first. If you add value first, value will come back. It might not be from the exact person. They might tell somebody else about you. But if you're always constantly adding value and not looking for anything in return, then it ends up coming back. There's a great book that I actually make everybody read as they come on board here, and it's called The Go-Giver. And it's a great story about going out and giving and not expecting anything in return, and then magically everything just continues to happen that you're looking for. And so that's a great book. But yeah, 100%, it's you add value to people, don't look for anything in return. And that's kind of how I was raised as well by my parents, who were both missionaries in their free time, and it's just constantly about adding value to other people. My parents, I would be like, why won't you sell your used cars? And they're like, well, somebody else needs it more than us. We've already paid it off and we can help somebody else out. So they just give their cars away. And I'm like, but you're giving away money. And so they always taught me that you just give, don't expect anything don't expect to receive anything. And I told my dad at one point in time, I was like, I think I'm becoming like selfish. And my dad's like, you out of all my sons would be the first person to take the shirt off your back and give it to somebody else.
Yeah. No, I love that approach to life. It reminds me of the famous Zig Ziglar quote about, helping enough other people and you'll to get what they want, and you'll get what you want. You mentioned, and this is not necessarily a marketing lesson, but internally in your organization, you bring on new team members and you assign them a book to read. Another really interesting practice. Tell me a little bit about that.
I assigned them a couple of books to read, actually, and a lot of training stuff, because I want everybody, we're very big on making sure that everybody's a good fit culturally, and that we all are on the same page for core values. We also quarterly have a book club where we read a book together, and then we come together and discuss it. Currently, we're reading Fierce Conversations. I don't know what book's that. Our book club was tomorrow morning at 10:30 to finish the last chapter of this book that we've been working on. And so it brings the team together, gets a lot of good conversations
That's
going.
the Susan Scott
Yes.
book. Okay. Yep. I know that because we've done that in our book club as well. So
Nice.
nicely done. All right. I mentioned that like one of the only things that I saw on your website was this make waves phrase that connects to your past. But as I'm looking through the rest of the website, right, the work that you're doing, and you transitioned away from, you know, media production to being a service provider to local businesses. And before we hit record, you mentioned that earlier this year, I think it was it or no, I guess we're at the beginning of
Last year.
2023, so it's just about a year ago. You started focusing on very specific industries. So I wonder if you can talk a little bit about where you were before and what caused that transition. It's you know, a phrase in our marketing lingo we call niching down, but what happened there and why?
So what ended up happening was we got to over $2 million in revenue, and bringing in new people to work on a wide gamut of clients was extremely hard because we're having to train them on understanding each one of these different industries. Every industry has its own acronyms and everything. And so when you're talking to a client or trying to understand it or create content for a client, and you don't understand the industry intricately, you have a harder time to be able to create something that's going to be great for that client. And so it was really hard for us because the processes and the procedures for each different one, or all the different services that we're offering, because we did branding as well. We don't do that anymore. We did all these different things. And so it took a lot of my time, a ton of my time, instead of being able to standardize processes that work and everybody understands that industry. And so it helped us to be able to scale up and to create new processes that were repeatable instead of having to change depending on which industry we were in. And so that's why we decided to niche down. Doing that, we knew that the following year we were going to fall off in revenue a little bit as well, because we were focusing specifically on niches, on our current niches. And so it's been great so far. I can't complain. I'm really happy about it. It's made it so much easier. Our teams came together even more because everybody feels like they actually understand what they're doing, what their clients do, what the day-to-day operations look like for those clients as well, because we have a very in-depth knowledge of it, due to we're only looking at a couple of industries. We're not looking at all these different industries and trying to go from e-com to a lawyer, from that to a power sports company. So it was all over the place, and you have to understand all of those. And so it was really hard. I'm a very diverse person, as you can tell from my background.
Yeah.
So it's very easy for me to kind of get into every single one of these, because at one point in time, I'll spend a couple of years doing something and then I move on. My dad's like, you spend about 18 months and you're very interested in something and you get to the very top of an industry real quick and you know everybody. He's like, but then in 18 months you're bored, so you need to move on to the next thing. And so you continue to do that over and over again. And so that was something that I had also noticed about myself, is I'll go into something and real quick I'll go up there because I'm obsessive almost about knowing everything, so that way I can understand it better. Because once you have confidence, then you can have confidence. And for me to sell something, I have to be confident in it so that I can have the confidence to come across to somebody else.
And that makes sense, that by narrowing the range of things that you have to have confidence and competence in, that you can, you know, be more successful. But as I noticed, both from what you've just said and also from looking at your website, it's not a specific industry, but a few, so that maybe that will force you to not get bored as quickly, because you can jump from one to another. So there are three different industries, general industries, umbrella industries, that you have on your website. And I think the commonality that I see between all of them is that the way that they tend to communicate and be positioned in the world is that they are serving, for the most part, local audiences. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
And so how do you arrive at
there are also three industries that always are constant need of new leads, because of the way that their sales cycles are. And then also two of those, which are lawyers and home service providers. When there's recessions, it doesn't really change much, because if your AC goes out, you better fix it. Otherwise, your wife's probably going to get pissed, and then there's divorce around the corner, because now the toilet's clogged and you can't do anything because you don't know how to do it, so you got to hire a professional. Well, they're always going to be there because most people don't understand how plumbing works or how backflow is and all the different things that come along with it.
So I was about to ask you, how do you arrive at these three? But I think you sort of answered that by saying that they all need a constant flow of new leads, and that is a great way to sort of think through where are we going to focus, right? When you're in any business trying to figure out how to narrow your focus, having certain criteria about what's going to be the best way to focus, whether it's, ability to pay or I enjoy spending time with these people. Well, this is consistency of opportunity for you. And that seems like a really, well-informed move.
Yeah, and like you're saying, also one of the other things is ability to pay. So in our target market, you have to be doing $2 million or more in revenue on a home service provider to be able to work with us. Because if you're under that, you could be like 1.5 and up, and it would be like a normal cost. But at 2 million, you're no longer taking out of the owner's pocket. I didn't like working with people that were so small that the owner was trying to decide if he's going to pay his marketing bill this month or if he's going to pay himself.
Yeah.
And so I want people to have specific marketing budgets set aside, and they really understand what we're doing. So there's not hours of education that have to go into telling them exactly what we're doing. They understand it, they understand the value of it, and they understand how it impacts their business.
All right. You offer a range of services, from things like I think web design. I should actually click and make sure that before I quote something that you don't do. Ad management, social media management. But one area that I think is probably more than the others, key to local business now, and as I've heard you say, into the future, is search engine optimization, the way that we behave, the way that we are as consumers now. We have access to things that consumers in the past didn't have access to in terms of research before, entering into a transaction, all those things. And so I wonder if you can talk a little bit around the importance of search engine optimization, et cetera, in the work that you're currently focusing on.
Yeah, I'll actually start like even farther back than that. So when I had the paddleboard and kayak shops, we wanted to figure out how to get more people to come out. And so we figured out all the way back then that, all right, we need to start writing a lot of blogs and use keywords and use local keywords. And so I actually have that company's website pulled up for a local company. The authority score of that website currently is 44. It has 4,400 organic search traffic, and that is for January. That is in the middle of the winter when nobody's paddleboarding. It is 40 degrees on the lake's probably about 52 to 56 right now. And it has over 2,300 keywords that people are searching for and finding it. And that's in January, and it's a local business. So we were trying to figure out how to attract. So that's how far back it went to. I started getting into local SEO because I wanted to figure out how to get our Google business profile or Google My Business or whatever it was called back then, how to get that to show up. They change the name every couple of years, I swear. And
I don't remember what it was between
2013,
2017. I kind of forgotten the name at that point.
Google Plus and all the different ones it was. So yeah, that's where it really started, that I realized how important SEO was to a local company. And so in the current climate of where we're at is a lot of people have been doing SEO. There's a lot of different agencies out there doing it, but how much are you actually focusing on local SEO and what needs to be done for local clients to really show up in those searches? Because Google's also changed in the past few years with the people also ask the rich snippets. Google My Business is continuing to grow and continuing to evolve. They now just made it, I think it was like a few months ago, you're able to use video reviews. So now your customers can leave video reviews and not only photos on your reviews on Google. Well, I guarantee that's something you should be telling your clients to do right now, because Google's always going to, they're always going to bump you up for using their new services, for trying out what they're looking for. They're going to move you up even farther. So doing video reviews right now in Google Business Profile is something that's good. Also having Google Posts, like really optimizing your Google Business Profile for local is really important. And then like I was talking about with the rich snippets and all that sort of stuff, there's the 0-click results. So I was just looking at a client earlier today who they're actually more of a national client, but they were like, we're not on the first page for any of these keywords. And it's like, you're actually in the people also ask and in the rich snippets for stuff. And the top 6 people, they all have over a million visitors coming through organic search per month to their website. You're a small company that has 2,800 people come to their website through organic search per month, and you're ranking #1 in what people ask for the exact keyword. And so by using those and understanding how to use the schema and use the different markups that you use to get Google to be able to crawl the website so that way you show up is very important. Also, the user experience on the website is really important. Google started looking very closely at the user experience, your load times, how people interact with the page. All those different things are something that Google's taking into effect. And then also making sure that you're optimized for mobile, that you have voice search. It matters for local as well, because somebody says, hey Alexa, find me the nearest plumber. You need to make sure that you're going to show up for those results when they have a broken pipe that they need to get fixed because it's flooding their house and they don't even know how to turn off their water. So there's all those different things. And then making sure that you have video content as well. You want to have video content on your website. Google likes to see that. And so just due to all the different things that we do, it helps to bring up local SEO. And local, it's just going to keep getting more localized because Google wants to make sure that they're providing the best search result for you for exactly what you're looking for the intent that you're looking for it.
That was a long list of different things that some of which have been part of the SEO world for quite a while, and some of which are new. I mean, you just mentioned something about video reviews being a recent development. And I'm curious, we're recording this at the beginning of 2023, and Google is in the news talking about 2 big threats to their business for the very first time in, the history of that company. The first one is ad revenue is being reallocated away from Facebook and Google to a lot of other platforms. And the second one is the threat of the AI stuff that's happening, and a not very important competitor historically, but potentially increasingly competitive, and that's Bing, owned by Microsoft, has heavily invested in the OpenAI Chat GPT thing. So I'm curious, from somebody who sort of spends their time thinking about, clearly, search engine optimization, what are the potential changes that you might envision, given some of the things that Google is now seeing, that you might need to start talking about with businesses to get prepared or readjust in the future?
Well, one of the things that you brought up is Chat GPT. So that's a huge thing. It's been in all the news everywhere. We've actually been using AI writing tools for a while, but you have to be very careful with it as well, because there is things that can detect GPT-2, GPT-3, all those different ones. Google already has a tool to tell. But what's interesting is when we went in and we put something in from GPT-3 into there, well, it says that it was 10% written by an AI bot. I put something in that I wrote myself, and it said that it was 43% written by an AI bot. Interesting. I wrote that myself. Mm-hmm. So it's not it doesn't tell exactly what it is, but there's also been stuff coming out that ChatGPT currently will reuse its own stuff that it's already told you. And so you have to be careful, because otherwise you can get duplicate content in there. So you have to make sure that you're going through all the content. We do a ton of different content, but we use actual copywriters to do that. But when it comes to doing alt tags and meta tags and stuff like that, we'll use an AI bot to help us with those. So that way we can get them done faster for exactly what we're looking for. So some of the changes that I see that are threats that I see happening is people focus too much on those specific things. We've had clients who are focused way too much on Facebook ads. Well, Facebook ads, I want to say that the share went down like 17%, and so did sales. So it was directly, or I'm sorry, the cost per click or acquisition went up. I'm trying to remember, one of my analysts was telling
Mm-hmm.
me, he's like, and at the same time, sales went down.
Yeah.
That were coming from the platform. And so we were trying to get some clients that are just, no, we only want to do Facebook ads. It's like, hey, we got to diversify into different ones. Should be on Pinterest, TikTok. They have a much lower cost. And there's already an audience there as well. Also, Bing, you can take directly your Google AdWords out of there, import it into Bing, and start running ads on Bing too. So it's made it pretty easy to be able to do both of those. As well as most people don't pay attention to other search what's it called? Different search places like Bing, for instance.
The platforms, yeah.
Yeah, different platforms.
Mhm.
Sorry. And so they're not paying attention to those and making sure that you're optimizing for each different platform that you actually want to be on. Another thing that we've been pushing more clients towards is programmatic. We do programmatic, we do CTV, OTT.
And for the business owners listening who don't know what you're referring to, you want to explain what those are?
So programmatic is a lot of display ads. It's on the different blogs that you go to. It's in the games that you're on. All those are different types of ads where we're able to do that. We're also able to get a lot more targeted on those compared to what we're allowed to do with Google or Facebook, especially. The targeting that they took away from Facebook has made it so much harder to really target compared to what we were able to do when Google used to track you, or sorry, Facebook used to track you across the entire internet. Yeah. It's made it a lot harder to hit your exact target market. And so through programmatic, we're able to hit exactly on our target market that we're looking for. But CTV stands for connected TV, which would be your platforms like Vizio, Samsung, Roku, those sort of things. They provide ads inside of their platforms. OTT is over the top television, which are going to be your streaming platforms like Fubo, Tubi, all the different ones that are out, Paramount, all those different ones. That's more OTT. ESPN Plus, those are going to be OTT platforms.
So I think, you know, for those of us who are old enough to remember the before the internet times, there's a lot more opportunity. It feels really complicated, right? Because it's not just the yellow pages in the local newspaper, but the ability to target as specifically as you've just been describing in terms of the type of user, whether they're playing a particular game or watching a particular show on, you know, one of those, I was going to say channels, but that confuses matters, paths to be able to access media. There's so much opportunity to be where the prospective target market is that I think you're in a position to really guide your customers in a way that they need it absolutely these days.
Yeah.
What we have just a minute or two left, and I want to get a sense of sort of the areas that you expect at LMH you're going to be doubling down on. As I said, you're about a year into focusing in these particular industries, home services, legal, you mentioned. I think there was a third one as well. Automotive, is that right?
We work with niche automotive companies.
Okay.
Not your normal type of car that you're going to find on Car Gurus or Auto Trader. We work with more like specialty Jeep shops, exotic cars, very specialty ones where people are actually searching for those on Google, compared to if you're looking for a 1997 or 2007 Toyota Corolla, you're going to be looking on Craigslist or you're going to be looking on Car Gurus. They're going to take up the whole top spots. So we work more on niche automotive. If you're looking for a turbo, a specific turbo, those sort of things. So we work with franchises.
Where do you see, based on your experience having focused so carefully, that you're going in the next year or so?
The next year, our big focus is on home service contractors. So we've partnered with the Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling Contractors Association, and we have an event here next week on the 17th where they're actually coming to our office and bringing their contractors here for other speakers to speak at our conference room. And we're the presenting sponsor of it. And then we're also offering free headshots. One way that I've been able to get into being the sponsor of a lot of things that are $25,000, $30,000 is I provide media services. My partner in the business is a professional photographer and videographer who has now moved into an operational role. but still is able to do that. So we'll go to trade shows and we'll be one of the top sponsors. But what do we really do? We traded value for value to the company. And so I just finished up a video from a big conference we were at in October, and we did a video for them in exchange for a $20,000 sponsorship. We did some videos and some photos for them. We did headshots for everybody at the event, and it was 2,500 plus people. Well, also every single one of those people that came to do a headshot with us had to write down their name, their address, or their name, their email address, what company they were with, what their phone number is, so we could contact them to get them their headshots. Well, welcome to the new lead list right there of people that we're delivering something to them that they want, and we also get to talk to them about our services at the same time. So like you said earlier, I come up with a lot of different creative ways to be able to get in front of people and trade value for value.
And I think you've done just that here, from the stories that you've shared about the way that you changed the business model with the surf shops, to the work that you're doing when you bring on new team members to get them to fit into the culture of the organization, to the creative ways that you're able to make connections to professional trade organizations like you just mentioned. I think that's all really instructive and far beyond just the types of services that you're providing your clients, to help inform sort of the things that they might do beyond the simple kind of area of marketing that you happen to specialize in. So I imagine, I certainly hope, that at this point some of our listeners are curious about how they get in touch with you. And so how do they get in touch with you?
You can get in touch with me through our website, or you can email me directly, just Danny@lmh.agency. So very simple. There's no .com, it's just lmh.agency. And then from there, in my email signature line, there's a way for you to book a meeting with me directly on there. So either myself or one of my team members will reach out to you. Or you can connect with me on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, all of that. It's just @Danny Braught is my handle for every single thing. But yeah, I'd love to connect with anybody who has any questions. I'm always interested in helping people.
Beautiful. Well, Danny Braught, this has been a fascinating, eye-opening conversation, and I really appreciate your insights. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.
Folks, if you know somebody who can benefit from the conversation you just heard, please, by all means, share this episode with them. In the meantime, my name's David Baer, and you have been listening to More Perfect Marketing. See you back here again soon. Take care.